Hi, everybody. My name is Scott Hilton-Clarke. I'm zooming in from Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm your host for the webinar series, Building Sustainable Growth. Really happy to have everyone here with us. This is episode 2. We had episode 1, which was based on ideas to execution. Today, I feel like I have one of the best jobs in the world because I have the privilege of not just meeting, but interviewing our region's most exciting, knowledgeable, and successful entrepreneurs and co-founders. And today, I have to tell you, we're in for a real treat. I'll introduce the guests in a little bit, but please get ready to participate. Please put in your questions. This is in service of you, so questions, comments, please. Hey, Julie, good to see you. So first off, let me just do an acknowledgement to Tech Beat Retreats, a nudge, right? Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And so before I introduce our guest, I just want to say we cannot talk about sustainable growth without really talking about digital strategy, a digital marketplace. And I think the one thing that the pandemic really taught us is that this is a really important element of business. Many businesses were really trying to catch up and struggle to really come up with something digitally based, given what happened with the pandemic. And lucky for us, we just have some wonderful guests, a lot of experience in this particular domain. So I'm really excited. I'm going to introduce, first of all, from Kingston, Jamaica, Naomi Garrett. Welcome, Naomi. Naomi is a PR consultant and personal brand strategist with Garrick Communications. And I love just saying from Kingston, Jamaica.
From Kingston, Jamaica.
You have to represent once you say that, it's really, really great, rather than Big Martin, Trinidad, like that, Anyway, so really welcome. And then we also have none other than Kadion Preston, co-founder and CEO of Caribshopper. So welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Right?
Thanks, Scott. Hi, Naomi.
Great. Hey, Kadion.
Great. So before we start rocking and rolling, just want
Kadion's also from Kingston, Jamaica. He's just not streaming from there today.
That's right.
I know he's streaming from Miami.
That's right.
Miami, man, where things seem to be COVID free. You know what I mean? They're enjoying life in Miami, but that's what I understand. I'm kidding you, Kadion, but no, really, really wonderful. So I have 2 Jamaicans in the house, 2 Yardis representing today, but really looking forward to today's conversation. And to me personally, I'm also kind of doing something new digitally, so I have a couple questions myself. And one of the reasons I really love doing this work is to get to learn from some of the best we have, and I'm really excited about that, right? I just have one quick announcement before we jump into the first question, which is we do have a giveaway, right? So please check the Instagram accounts for both Nudge and Tech Beach. And you're going to see the streamer right there in front of us. But we're highlighting 3 Nudge entrepreneurs. Peyowa, Organics, Noelia's Papers Jewelry, and Individual Aesthetics, right? Wonderful giveaway, so please look forward to that. So Naomi, I'm going to begin with you. With my first question, I love people streaming in just to get to know you a little bit. So I'd love to hear a little bit about, and I know you're wearing 2 hats in your business, right? But I'd love to hear how you started, a bit of your origin story, how you started your business, but also any interesting twists and plots along the way in your origin story that you'd love to share, because I think that's what makes entrepreneurship. We all have some great stories like to share from that perspective. But if you can kind of kick us off with that, it'd be great.
Sure. So many interesting twists and plots that actually got me here. So thank you, Scott. So for those who are meeting me for the first time, my name is Naomi Garrett. I'm also known as the PR chick, personal branding coach, but I'm also the founder of Garrick Communications, which is a boutique PR agency here in Kingston, Jamaica. But what a lot of people may not know about me is that I actually studied hotel and tourism management because I always thought that I was going to be this hotel owner and I'd have my pair of jet skis on the beach and me and my best friend would be jet skiing every day after work. Until I worked in the hospitality industry and realized that when my lecturers said that the hospitality industry is a 24-hour industry, it really is a 24-hour industry, especially when you live on property. And at the time, I was working at Grand Lido on the Grill, which was one of Jamaica's most premier hotels in the Grill. And it was a great experience, but I also realized very quickly that this might not be the right lifestyle for me. I really looked around at other women that were in more senior positions and their lifestyle, which included being at work maybe 18 hours a day. And I started to wonder, how would I create a life for my future family, right? For a husband, for children, if I'm always at work, which is what I saw around me all the time. I made a decision very quickly. I'm very good at that, to move back to Kingston. Not knowing what I was going to do, because I actually did not complete my degree in hotel and tourism management. I still have not passed statistics at the University of the West Indies. And so I came back to Kingston trying to figure out, okay, so we don't want to do hospitality, but we don't have a degree. What are we going to do? The great thing was that I actually worked in sales and marketing during my hotel experience. And so I was approached by Kimani Robinson, who was the founder of RETV, which was like our BET of the Caribbean at the time. And he approached me about a job as a sales manager. And so I thought, okay, well, I have sales experience. Let me try that. I ended up working there for over 5 years and became the sales and marketing manager for the company. But after my 5-year period there, I actually became pregnant with my son. And again, I made another quick decision that, okay, maybe going to all these events and parties and hanging out with all the artists and entertainers may not be the best lifestyle for me right now. And so I made another decision to enter back into hospitality, but as a corporate communications manager for the opening of this great hotel in Kingston, the Spanish Court Hotel. Because I realized that my experience working in media, I was actually able to make all these real connections with the people behind the scenes, the actual decision makers, the editors, the producers, the people that determine what we see and hear on the news. And so because of those relationships and my experience in hospitality, it was very easy for me to fit into that role. And after about 3 months working with that opening for the hotel, I took the leap of faith as an entrepreneur because I saw an opportunity for PR in Jamaica. Because at the time, we only had advertising agencies that maybe had an account executive that was dedicated to PR, but not someone or a company that focused solely on PR, especially in the lifestyle space. And so I jumped right in, and I'm happy to say that Garrick Communications is 12 years old this month. We've never advertised our business. It has been through recommendations and referrals, and I'm hoping our work speaks for itself. And that was a journey to PR. And I'll quickly just share that for the last 3 years, I've been doing personal branding. I get a lot of fulfillment out of helping entrepreneurs, especially and executives, to really understand what their unique value is and how to share that with their ideal audience. And so I've created workbooks and courses and all kinds of different products and services to make that journey a lot easier for them. So that's a mishmash of my origin story to where I am today.
Fantastic. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. Before I move to Kadion, a couple of things you said really struck a chord with me. First of all, I really get your ability to just make quick decisions and pivot, which is really a really powerful skill for an entrepreneur. I owned a restaurant once in Boston, Massachusetts, in Cambridge, actually, and for 9 years. And the restaurant failed for 9 years. Like, they just failed for 9 years. So the idea of seeing where something's not working and making a quick decision is really, really paramount. And then I had to smile when you talked about statistics, because most of us who, we've all had our own statistics course experience.
Oh my gosh.
Right? So
no worries. I think I did it like at least 3 times, to the point that my course no longer exists anymore. So I will never be able to get that degree unless I did over the whole 4 years again.
Brilliant. So what I want to come back in something you mentioned, right? I just find it fascinating when you talk about personal brand strategy. to take something that seems so personal and live and you're able to make that work from a digital perspective. So I can't wait to we're going to jump in on that when we get into the main,
Sure.
some of the other main questions, all right? So getting you ready. Kadion, tell us about your origin story and any interesting twists and turns, man. I know you would have some, for sure.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Well, I think I made the same mistake you did, but I held on to the restaurant for 4 years, Scott.
Yeah.
And Naomi has always been a great marketer and PR chick. I've known her since I was a teenager. And she's always stood out. So she knows how to pull in the right audiences.
Wow, thank you.
No, it's a pleasure to be here. No, for all the newcomers, I'm Kadion Preston, CEO of Caribshopper. Caribshopper is the e-commerce marketplace that's bringing Caribbean culture closer to those who live away from home, and also we're focused on taking Caribbean culture from where it's at today to the entire world. Actually, our goal is to make it as dominant as our other influences. Jamaica, Trinidad, we have influenced so many things across the world. It's time the world meets our products. So Caribshopper, that's our mission and that's our assignment. My story, Scott, let's see. Let's go back to careers. Moved to New York, went on to college. First internship in '98 was with Yahoo, which was mind-blowing, which was luck. And in anything that you're doing, you have to have a little bit of luck, and you also have to have that decisive decision making that Naomi does. I mean, I think what gave me that opportunity when Yahoo was Google of the world was just new to New York and signing up for school, and they said, if you're looking for internships, come in, and nobody was going that line. So I said, I'm beelining in that line, and I put my name down, and I'm in the mailroom at Yahoo. But graduated from the mailroom at Yahoo easily. One day sitting in the lunchroom, and the CEO of Yahoo Desktop News, which is now Yahoo Ticker, which is Yahoo Finance now, was sitting in the lunchroom. They're normally not in the lunchroom. We're in the Empire State Building, and I saw him, and everybody was, waving from afar. I went over and shook his hand and said, hi, my name is Kadion Preston, and I'm working in the mailroom, and I'm an intern, and very impressed at what you're doing. And then he asked me more questions about me. And from that conversation, he invited me to sit down. From that conversation, I basically became his shadow for the time that I worked at Yahoo, and literally went to top meetings. When I checked in after school, I would clock in at the mailroom and go straight up to the 76th floor into his offices and sit in meetings and get thrown in different departments to try and figure out what I want to do in school. At the time, my older brother and business partner was a programmer, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, whether I wanted to do engineering or programming, or I really just wanted to be an entrepreneur, which that was always my end goal anyway. So long story short, I chose engineering, graduated, and started working on Wall Street. Eventually, my brother and I, we started our own dev shop in New York, and then hightailed it out of New York to Miami. And we've had that business for probably 15 years. We exited that, and we were like towards the tail end of that business. We're like, what's next for us? And we always knew that we wanted to do something in the Caribbean. Growing up, we had a very strong influence from our parents. Our father was an engineer at JPS forever, and my mom was the entrepreneur, and she's the one that we learned. Actually, we learned both lessons from them, right? So she was decisive, aggressive, and not fearful of anything. My father was steady and consistent and reliable, right? That those two contrasts kind of created what you see here. So I'm crazy. I'm not fearful, and definitely not. I'm very reliable, but definitely not consistent. So interestingly, so long story short, We looked at where we could impact with our years of experience in technology. We said e-commerce. On both sides of e-commerce in 2016, that's when the journey in Caribshopper started, interestingly. Both sides of e-commerce, the Caribbean was behind the eight ball. We were behind the eight ball in how we bought goods and services internationally because of the banking systems, the access to credit and debit cards, and actually merchants accepting our payment forms, right? And the old school way was freight forwarders. And so we said, let's improve that. And we went down that path. We built an application that integrated with 150 major retailers in the US. And we allowed people directly from their phone, whether they had a credit card with MasterCard or Visa on it, to shop Amazon, Macy's, whatever, and have that product delivered directly to their door in one process. So, but as we learned, the problem that we were fixing, the consumers in certain markets really didn't want it fixed. You see, because we did product market fit study, and sometimes in business, like you hear somebody complain, like, I hate the fact that I have to go to in Trinidad, they say my Skybox, right? Because Skybox, the company, like branded themselves as the freight forwarding name in Trinidad, and in Jamaica they would say, you know, mail pack or ship me, right? I hate the fact that when I go up to ship me, I don't know what my final cost is, and that was their challenge. So we said, okay, the big challenge here is transparency and also integration. We allowed people to shop with cash. We integrated with the network across the Caribbean, that you could load money on your Caribshopper account and shop anywhere that didn't take your form of payment. And so we were chipping away at the issues, but long story short, a year and a half in, we're in 5 countries. We're doing well in the smaller countries. We're doing well in Cayman, Antigua, and Turks and Caicos. We're fighting the good fight with my good friend Kari Robinson and the freight forwarders of Jamaica. And we're fighting the good fight with Skybox, and I forgot the other name in Trinidad. And we realized that the problem that we're fixing is kind of the problem that the consumer wanted, because they get to kind of argue and work a deal out on the most expensive part of e-commerce when shopping from international is the duties, right? And we integrated that you had to pay that upfront. And so we would see, you know, our first year in business, we're doing well. And then we started to see people come to our site, check the price, check what we're listed, and they go away. So they add to cart, they go away. They add to cart, they go away. And then conversion rates started to slow down, and we're like, is this? So we kept at it. We said, let's double down on the smaller markets, because we don't have the duty problem in those markets, and we could have. But then we also looked ahead and said, we went into a fellowship program with Amazon and realized that they were going to do their own cash to credit solution with Western Union, and everybody was taking away the barriers of cross-border e-commerce. And we said, really and truly, we really didn't. We were doing this because we felt that it was the most applicable form of e-commerce at the time. But where our heart was in growing the Caribbean, right? Coming from entrepreneurs, building Jamaica, building Trinidad, building the Caribbean, being bigger than just beaches, sands, music, and weed in some places and carnival in some places, right? So 2019, my brother and I sat down and says, is this good use of capital? Is this the way we want to, will this market close in on us? And we made a decision, yes, it is, based on the information that we've been able to research and get. So 2019, we spent time doing product market fit study, flying to all the islands. I met some cool people in Trinidad and Jamaica and Barbados and all over. And what we realized is that the challenge of export is that the top 5% in the Caribbean have no problems exporting, right? Because they're able to do the volumes and they have the partnerships with distribution. And the Caribbean is doing $50 billion worth of exports yearly. And it's the same number for the last 15 years, right? Why? Because the newcomers, right, now that the world is flat, the internet has flattened the world, right? In the 70s, the Caribbean was strong for textiles. and we were exporting everything from sugar, textiles, all of these things. And then China became a strong power, and that all shifted, right? We started looking at different ways to support our economies, right? So that industry was probably 50s, 60s, and then tapered off in the 70s. But now with the internet, you can create a product anywhere if you're able to sell, do what Naomi does well, like sell that story. A consumer anywhere will buy that product. So why we're not doing this for the Caribbean? So after we did the product market fit study and we got indications that this is a good move for us, we started down the track and started building Caribshopper 2.0, which is exporting the Caribbean and focused on Caribbean-made goods to the rest of the world. And then COVID
Wow. Got it. So we're going to talk about COVID came and how you had to pivot for that. But, it's funny. There's a couple, both in terms of what you and Naomi shared, right? That's why I love this particular series. There's so many nuggets in what you've shared in terms of your ability to see a new problem and then completely pivot. But what I loved in particular was you walking across the lunchroom to have that conversation with the CEO, right? And I tell a lot of people that I coach, oftentimes when we see an exponential jump in somebody's either career or situation, it's out of a relationship. It's not typically out of a technical thing, right? Unless you're inventing something. So I found that quite fascinating. And I also love kind of the juxtaposition between your mom and your dad as well. So I want to encourage people to just put in some questions and comments. We're going to get into more kind of an e-commerce plan in a bit now. And I saw Kim also mentioned about she took stats 7 times as well. And she's also saying, and Kim Butcher, by the way, she's saying you can still do stats, Naomi.
No thanks. Thank you, but no thank you.
But here's what I find interesting, Naomi, as an entrepreneur, isn't it amazing how you learn what you need to learn for your business?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you tune in. So you know the stats you need to know for your business. It's very interesting how all of a sudden like that. So it's kind of like really, really good. But Naomi, back to you on a bit in terms of how when you made the transition with your kind of personal, and I'm curious really about being a personal brand strategist. What were some of the challenges that you faced in moving to that platform? And I'm asking from a very personal perspective because I do a lot of work selling to businesses.
Yes.
And I have an offer coming out going to consumers. And it's a bit daunting in terms of doing videos and all those types of things. I'm just curious as to what showed up for you as you did that and how were you able to do it? Yeah.
Sure. So it was very interesting, and I actually didn't include this in the origin story. But how I ended up even becoming a personal branding coach is in 2017, I made a decision to step out from behind the scenes, right? Because as a PR strategist or consultant, my job is to really guide other people and tell them what to do, how to do a media interview, how to show up, right, for their brands. And I was the person that was behind the scenes. And I decided in 2017, I was going to apply for all of these coaching programs and fellowships and put myself out there a bit. And in one of my coaching sessions, our coach said to us, we need to find a way that we can make money in our sleep, right? Make that nocturnal revenue. And the example she gave was like creating a book where you put all the effort in one time and then you continuously reap the rewards. And I thought about it and I wasn't sure what I would write about. I started drafting something about, PR and communications. But then I was thinking, how many people are really going to buy this book other than the CariMax students at UWI? And then, people talk about things being downloaded into their brains. And I remember one night I woke up at about 3 o'clock in the morning and I just started thinking that I should share my journey to how even without a degree, I was able to actually use my personal brand and relationships and how I showed up for the world just as myself to actually propel my career. And so I started writing down the steps that I took unknowing, I didn't even know I was taking those steps at the time. And I ended up writing the draft for 8 steps, a PR Chick's Guide, 8 Steps to Building Your Personal Brand workbook. And that happened in about October, and I launched my book in March. Still not thinking that I'd become a personal branding coach. I was actually just trying to make that nocturnal revenue that she spoke of. But it led to me being asked to do speaking engagements, which was a challenge for me because, again, I am behind the scenes, and speaking engagements, including this one, makes me very, very anxious. I'll share with the audience. I mean, my armpits get sweaty. I have like an out of body experience. So I know what I'm saying right now, but I'm not going to remember anything once it's over. Because I just have to channel myself into this space, because I know that as nervous as I am, I'm going to share something of value with an audience that needs to hear it. And if I can positively impact the life of one person just by showing up in this space that makes me uncomfortable, I'm going to do it. And that's what I have to do to push myself for speaking engagements, webinars, summits, anything where I have to put myself forward and show up in a real way. And so I had to get over that. And every day I'm still getting better, I think, at it. But what happened with that workbook was it led to all of these companies asking me to host corporate workshops about building your personal brand, or schools asking me to come and speak to their students about building their personal brands. And then people started asking for other kinds of services. So, over the last 3 years, I've been able to create all these different types of programs to fit anyone that's on their personal branding journey, whether you are a student, an entrepreneur, an executive, or even an established corporate executive. So I've even coached CEOs, because I know the steps are all similar, but then I just fit them to the person that I'm working with. And as I mentioned earlier, for me, the fulfillment, I'm used to bringing brands to the forefront. I've worked with over 100 different brands, including local and international brands. But the joy that I get when I meet someone who can take my workbook out of their handbag and tell me how much this workbook has impacted their lives, or if I get a thank you email after doing a workshop with a company, or even seeing a client get a new job just because they understand that unique value that they can offer, right? I think a lot of us get bogged down because, and we'll talk about, as you said, the digital space right now, especially the internet has become the great equalizer for all of us, as Kadion kind of mentioned, right? We all have access, and we all have an opportunity to show up with our products or services. And it's how we are actually utilizing this space. And this is the thing, people get, very frustrated when they see, like, for example, an insurance advisor where we have like 5,000 insurance advisors in Jamaica, and you're all showing up on LinkedIn as an insurance advisor. How do I use my own experience and my journey and my talent and my expertise and combine that to really show what my value is as an insurance advisor, so I can communicate that effectively to my ideal audience? And that's essentially what I try to do as a personal branding coach. Is I really try to listen to someone's story and see how we can use that experience, education, and just life lessons, really, to find out what their unique offering is, so that we can now communicate that effectively. And that's really what I do, and I really get a lot of pleasure out of that. Hey, Kemoy. Kemoy is one of my clients.
Fantastic. No, it's great. I have to say, Naomi, what you just shared is just so inspiring to me, in terms of, for somebody that's in PR and is anxious about being in public. I can't think of a better definition of courage.
Than what?
Than that. A better definition of courage.
Oh.
Than that. But what you said is so wonderful, is that it's out of service to the people that you work with, and that you can make a difference. With
that's
kids.
For me.
I love it. So that's what works. So really, really thank you for sharing that. And I'm also finding it amazing that you started off with just one idea of nocturnal revenue, and how once you started speaking, how things just evolved and opened up. Really quite phenomenal.
Into multiple revenue streams.
Wonderful. I want to, at some point, we want to talk about different actual platforms and some more technical things that you do and you use to make that to come to life.
Absolutely.
Kadion, where I'd love to take the conversation with you a bit is, I love when as Caribbean people we have big goals, and I love your goal of taking Caribbean culture to the world, right? And I think I really believe there's an insatiable market. There's enough evidence to say that there is such a market for what we have to offer that is so attractive for folks, right? I guess my question is in as you say in the Caribshopper 2.0 model, right? How are you thinking about um, online communities, things like that, to and e-commerce and the digital kind of experience to move you forward in that with the diaspora, et cetera, et cetera. What are some of the things you're looking at in that domain?
So thanks, Scott. Interestingly, um, at Caribshopper, we say our first customer is the merchant, the creator, right? Because without the product, we can't sell anything, and we can't take anything from marginal to world scale, right? So the the reality, we started building our community around the creators because we're very intentional in that for our marketplace, we deal directly with the manufacturers, right? The owners, the product owners, whether small, medium, or large. So we don't allow resellers on our platform so that we can build a community around that. Because whatever learnings that's happening, and we have every month we have what we call a merchant meetup, where we have a Zoom call with the merchants. We have either a testimonial from other merchants on what's working for them, what changes we're implementing, how we're doing it, how we think they should change direction. And we had lofty goals in the beginning to start, segregating off into an incubator to take our products from marginal to mainstream, right? And we'll get to that. I think the greatest challenge we have today in building a community is building a community within the region itself, right? That's number one. The diaspora, interestingly, when you analyze them, they're always together. They're always a part of the community. We're actually more separated at home than abroad, because the relatableness in being not the majority away from home, people normally find those cliques and come together. So finding the communities, whether it be the TT community or the Jamaican community, or as we expand to other markets, there is main points of locations, whether it be Facebook groups, it be their favorite entertainer or news source, right? Um, but in our goals to build a community on the diaspora, we're trying to bring that community to us by storytelling, right? We're telling stories of our merchants, and we started that process, and we expect to build on it. And over time, as people come into if you look on our Instagram, if you look on our Facebook, it's primarily around the merchant and their story and their product and why it's so special, right? And we're going to expand on that to build the community around that, right? Because the second most important emotion to a human is where they belong, right? So it's love is number one. The second most important emotion is that belongingness, right? Your community. What are you part of? And so myself living in the US, I know I always want to be a part of that community. I'm a Jamaican, I'm proud of it. And there's nothing more important outside of family and loved ones. But the reality is that's our intention, and that's how we plan to disrupt building community on the merchant side and building community on the consumer side.
So let me just piggyback on something on the merchant side. What are you all using Zoom, things like that, or are there
Oh,
other things that you're looking to? What are you? Do you find that there are other tools that could be interesting to really make that more personal feel, or how are you actually getting that
so
community
today we're
going, or what
using
other
Zoom.
techniques you have? Yeah.
So today we're using Zoom for the merchants, and we have WhatsApp groups that we use to quickly communicate different initiatives, and of course the regular email. But we haven't looked into technology being the source of that. yet. We're good with Zoom and having bi-weekly meetings and getting the community together, and it is an open forum, so the conversations are good, and so for now we're not using any specific tools. We're using Zoom, and we're building that from there.
Okay, very good. So, Katie, I'm going to come back to you to talk about e-commerce in particular, because I know with your Caribshopper business, you definitely have something to say. You probably know a lot about e-commerce and the challenges of e-commerce in the Caribbean, and one of the models where you actually went to cash, kind of as a model, right? In one of the iterations of the business. So Naomi, I guess what I'm really curious about is getting a little tactical. When you started to move from creating more of a product and an offering around, what are some of the tools that you were able to leverage for that, and have you been able to kind of go outside and tap into the diaspora market as well with your offerings, or how has that gone for you from that perspective?
Sure. So I like to test and measure, right? So I try a lot of different things to see what works best for me, especially as someone being new into this entire space. So I started off with a workbook. Of course, it's available on Amazon as well. So that's a digital, you can buy the book on Amazon, but then I also created a digital version that's fillable so that you can purchase that on my sales page. So I use sales.com to just sell all kinds of stuff. So if I have a new workshop, or if I create a new digital product, like I create a lot of ebooks, I just use Canva and create them myself. And then I sell them on my sales page. Sometimes I'll create bundles and I'll sell them together. So you can buy 5 ebooks, right? So I play around with different platforms just to see what works. So I will utilize PayPal and I utilize Stripe. Luckily, because I'm a dual citizen of the US and Jamaica. So I get to have a Stripe account because I have a US bank account, but I'm also looking at some of the local or Caribbean payment options as well. Because I want to make it easy for my clients to have access to whatever I have to offer. I also started utilizing platforms like Kajabi, where I host my online courses. So I have 2 courses online that includes videos. That for the first set, I shot with my own phone, guys. So you really don't have to have all the money to like create these things. You know, I had a coach that once told me that done is better than perfect. We can perfect it later, but sometimes if we're waiting on perfection, it's not going to get done. And so the first course I did, I actually shot with my iPhone. I created the worksheets in Canva. I had Kemoy, who is one of my great clients, to review the entire course and experience it first so that she could tell me her thoughts and any changes. And now I have a second one that I had professionally shot for me. So it looks more finessed. And I did the worksheets again in Canva. And it's available online. So I'm always trying out all these different things and looking to changes in the market. Of course, I host webinars on Zoom. I've hosted webinars using Webinar Jam. I'm always trying out new platforms to see what works best for me. Kajabi has been really good because you can do multiple things on the platform. So you can have courses, you can have mini courses, you can do your email marketing, you can do newsletters, you can create a community. But one of the things that my community, specifically since we were talking about, has been asking for is a membership, right? And so that's what I'm building out now. So I'm testing different platforms that will allow me to hold all of this content that I've created over the last 3 years and have one platform that has everything, that includes like an e-library, access to the different courses, coaching sessions. So I'm utilizing anything that's available to me. A lot of these things are for free, but a lot of them have a membership cost, right? Which is a monthly subscription. You just have to think back, okay, I need to make sure I make this much money from this platform to cover that cost. And so that's what I do, because as I mentioned earlier, the internet gives us all the opportunity to participate. And we just have to really figure out who our audience is and where they live and what they want from us so that we can create those digital products. And the great thing about digital products is once it's done, it's done. So you can now just, the best thing is when you hear that little ping saying you received a Stripe payment or you received some more money from PayPal. It's the greatest feeling knowing that you did the work maybe a year ago and you're still making revenue from this. And then, of course, we have amazing platforms like LinkedIn and Instagram that allow you to actually really connect and communicate with your audience. So we have the power right now to literally create our own media companies that really get to showcase our own unique personal brands, showcase our value and build our communities, make great products that support our audience and their needs, and also make money at the same time. So, I think there's so many great opportunities now, and don't be afraid to test and measure and try new things. I have canceled subscriptions that I realized after a while it doesn't work for me. I mean, I went to ClickFunnels in Tennessee to learn about their platform. I've done so many different things, but at the end of the day, I have to choose the platforms and the products that work best for my audience. You mentioned the Caribbean. When I look at my analytics after doing a webinar, I am amazed at the audience that's in Cayman, Barbados, and Trinidad specifically, even on my Instagram platform. But outside of that, I have people in London, Nigeria, Canada. It's always fascinating when I host a webinar to see where people are signing up from. So I always include that as one of the things to fill out on that little question form. So it's name, country, email address, so that I can see where people are tuning in from. So what the internet, I think, also does is it allows you to expand your reach to an audience that you never had access to before. So, I'm using the opportunities that are available to me, and I'm always trying out new things.
Wow, Naomi, thank you. As I have to tell you, what Kadion said earlier in that he knew you from teenager. There's a place where you're very enrolling, very inspiring, right? And as I'm listening to you, I also love your spirit of experimentation. And Kadisha Ray said it wonderful on she said she could put that on a t-shirt, that done is better than perfect. And I almost feel that I have come to this webinar series today to hear that message from me personally. So thank you. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate that. I just have one quick thought though. With all this work that you're doing, you would, do you love to write? Because there's a lot of writing you're talking about now and back and forth. Do you get support with writing? I'm just curious from that perspective.
Sure. So funny enough, if I didn't get into hospitality and tourism, I want to do something in languages or literature. I'm a avid reader. I read everything. And I also enjoy writing. So I do enjoy writing and creating content and figuring out different ways that I can create one long piece, like a long form piece of content, and then break it up into smaller chunks to use on different platforms. So I'm actually a contributor now to the Business Observer in Jamaica. And so I try to provide them with articles about personal branding that I think can help their audience. And then I will use that article and create smaller pieces of content that I can use across different platforms. So currently it's just me. So I just do that. I actually literally just got approved as an contributor today to the entrepreneur.com's leadership network. So
Wow.
as of today, I'll be writing articles for entrepreneur.com. So I'm super excited about that. And it will just
congratulations.
help, the credibility for my own personal brand and reach a much wider audience. So I literally just got that email before logging on to this today. So yes, I love to write.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Long story long.
Really. Brilliant. All right, perfect. So I want to switch over to Kadion, and I want to give so Kadion has a lot of experience as an entrepreneur. I know that you were part of one of the Tech Beach, one of the cohort tech stars, one of the tech stars in terms of one of the world's top incubators. And you said something just now, which is the way you said it. We had all these plans, this, that, and then the pandemic hit. Like that. So I wanted to kind of go into a bit of wisdom mode, right? Because I think there are a number of people on this call that are either entrepreneurs themselves or looking to put their toe in the water towards entrepreneurship. But I'm just wondering, Kadion, if you kind of look back a bit, especially with the pandemic, where I would like, I like to say a major reset button was hit in March 2020, right? Who was an expert in February in some things was not an expert in March. And that gave me a lot of confidence personally, because I was like, okay, nobody knows what's going on, right? How have you, what advice do you have for entrepreneurs who have been kind of weathering the pandemic, and just in general, as you look back, in terms of some lessons you'd like to share with the audience today?
Sure. I mean, I think, by the way, first of all, Naomi, congratulations on entrepreneur.com.
Thank you. That was me just testing and measuring, trying something out, and I got a great response. So
yeah, so back to your question, Scott. Sorry about that. As entrepreneurs, right? So let's talk about COVID. COVID happens. Everybody's unsure of what's going to happen, right? There's nobody here on this webinar or anywhere that can say that they didn't have fear, right? And so for me, when I face fear, I either find knowledge or I try to find a solution. And so starting to get to understand March 2020, somebody said to me, are you gonna launch this business in COVID? Like, you're a brand new business. Are you gonna launch in COVID? I said, yeah. Because one of my mentors always told me that disruption always follows intention, right? And you either have to look at something as an obstacle or a distraction or an opportunity, right? And long time ago, I learned that while hurricanes are destructive, right, it's an opportunity for growth. While wars are dismantling society, it's also an opportunity for wealth, right? So you have COVID-19. When has anything like this ever happened? So start doing your research. The internet levels the playing. The closest thing to it in recent times was SARS. Who benefited from SARS? SARS was contained in Asia. It didn't really spread too far. But interestingly, once I started reading, I noticed that a company named Alibaba blew up after SARS because people couldn't travel to Asia anymore to do business face to face. And the adoption of Alibaba and what they were trying to do changed the human behavior. It also changed the business behavior in how businesses from all over the world dealt with the West. Now they were comfortable in doing it online instead of jumping on a plane, flying into Asia, and doing their business face to face. Okay, we are doing something different. Travel is going to be restricted. We saw that right off the bat. Livelihoods are going to be in trouble. What we wrote as our plan of action and how we were going to onboard merchants changed completely, because we thought that we would have once a month, we'll have an event in Jamaica and Trinidad, invite everybody over, have drinks, do a presentation, sign up merchants and get them onboarded and do it quickly and execute quickly. And that never happened. We went the slow crawl way. We had to do phone calls. How you doing? It's time to look at another way of making business if the country shut down. The Caribbean went extremely hard on their restrictions, which even made it difficult. Made it more difficult at the time. And then we're building a team. I'm building a team, and everybody is home. Everybody is somewhere else in the world. So it was a challenge. We had to learn new skills. But once, as an entrepreneur, so before I go off on a tangent, you ask yourself this question: what's happening to you right now? Is it an obstacle? Is it a distraction, or is it an opportunity based on your business? For our business, it was an opportunity. It was an opportunity to help manufacturers in the Caribbean sell internationally. It was also an opportunity to go digital. That was the move, right? Touchless society. So it became more prevalent to people where they need to be, where they need to pivot to, because they can't open their storefronts, right? It became clearer to governments, partners, infrastructure that needed to go in place, that those infrastructures, that long drawn out process that the Caribbean takes to get anything done, changed, right? We were at 18% credit card penetration for Visa and MasterCard. That went up to 23 by March 2021, right? That's a move. The 18% took place in 10 years, and the other 3% happened, very quickly on the circumstances, and adoption by merchants to go digital happened very quickly. It would have been a slower crawl. It would have been more of an obstacle. So we looked at it as an opportunity, and we executed on that. And we had to change the way we thought we were going to conduct business and do it digitally. And the team is spread out. It's still spread out. Luckily for us, we have an office in Jamaica and in TT. And now that things aren't as busy, now we can come together and create some innovation, because a distributed workforce, it's a lot of meetings, it's a lot of understanding, it's a lot of new people to meet, personalities to get used to. So for me, my ideas to an entrepreneur is identify if the problem is a disruption, obstacle, or an opportunity. And once you've done your research, and once you've made a decision on what it is, you can make a decision on which way to go.
Well, Kadion, thank you so much for that. Specifically, you're not only just giving that as a model in terms of what that mentor told you, but kind of walking us through that with your business, really generous as you think that through. I also think we are all struggling with some version of working online, cameras on, cameras off, hybrid. What does that look like? When somebody is not there and it's hybrid, it almost seems like a little more difficult. So all sorts of stuff we have to kind of work through. So I really, really appreciate that. So Naomi, let me ask you a question, but I want to change it up a bit in terms of advice that you would have to give as you have been on your entrepreneurial journey. That's been really, really inspiring. A number of pivots, and I just love how 3 a.m. the stream of consciousness came to you, and you're like, okay, this is what I want to write about. And you just got it done, within literally 6 months or 7 months from March. You said it was March, then boom, right?
Yeah.
So I guess if there is, let's say a young person, they're 16. Let's say they're in St. Vincent. I went to Beckway 2-3 years ago, and I was just surprised when I saw just how small the island was, right? And I saw this kid looking out, about 16, just looking out on the jetty, and just wondering in terms of what are the career prospects for her, right? You can go to the capital of St. Vincent, maybe like that bank or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just say that this person knew that as many of the kids nowadays complain about school. Let's say she knows that she wants to be an entrepreneur. She wants to own a business, right?
Right.
What advice would you give to her if you had to kind of say, look, think of this one thing to think about? What would come to mind for you to share with her to think about if she wanted to go on that journey?
You know what, Scott, as you were talking about that, I started thinking about my son, right? Because he's 15, so he's close to 16 now. And he's at this stage of life where, well, we're told we should know what we want to do, right? We do CX exams or CSEC that we're supposed to pick subjects that are aligned with our career. And then at 18 or 16, 17, you're doing A-level exams, which again determines where you go to university or SAT. And to be honest, looking back, it's a lot of pressure for a young person if you really are not sure what you want to do. And so the advice that I'm currently giving my son, who to me seems multi-talented in different creative areas, is to try things, right? To have the experiences first, to see, do I maybe this thing sounds great, but do I actually really like it? I think the opportunity that this generation has that we did not have is this access to information. So you have no excuse not to do a quick Google search to look for different things in the area that you're interested in, or even as an entrepreneur, to get mentorship from people that you don't know personally, but you now have access to them online, to read these books, or just to explore. So, for example, my son, he wants, well, at one point, we're not 100% sure, right? But he's writing, like, he is really great at building things, so maybe there's some kind of engineering. But what his passion has always been is animals, right? So specifically reptiles and amphibians. So that's herpetology. And so what I've been trying to do is I allow him to explore these passions. If today he wants to draw, I will buy all the drawing things so that he can explore that to see if that's what he really wants to do. If he's really interested in animals, we just came back from Los Angeles. We're grateful that we have that opportunity to travel, and we have family that lives there. Took him to San Diego Zoo so that we could go through the zoo, meet the actual zoo caretakers, hear about their own personal experience, find out if they have internships available. So the next time we're in Los Angeles, maybe he can do that. We came back to Jamaica. He's going to start an internship at Hope Zoo with the curator there. So for me, I'm all about experience, right? I think experience is the best thing for anybody, no matter what field you're trying to enter. So if it's entrepreneurship, find an entrepreneur and talk to them. I think mentorship is critical at every age and stage. I don't think I really started reaching out to mentors until I was in my late 20s. But I think you can start having mentors from any age, right? And as I said, even if you can't reach out to one physically, they're all online. They all have a story, right? They say success leaves clues. Go and read that person's bio, or go follow them on Instagram. But I think the difference is there is access to this information where we can learn about things, we can ask questions, and we can actually speak with someone who has been there, done that, and we can avoid a lot of the mistakes that someone else would have made on their journey just by having a conversation.
Well, fantastic, Naomi. I'm hearing a number of things in there, but the heart of it is encourage to explore, right? Experiment, get mentorship early, right? There's a high school in the U.S. that we don't get to experiment much in our school system, and they changed the grade from F for failure to not yet. Which really encourages a sense of experimentation, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're gonna close quickly. Kadion, you have 1 minute to give your answer to that girl on the jetty.
No, I definitely agree with Naomi. Be curious. Try everything that you think you might like. If you're young, you have the opportunity to explore passions, get mentors, find the information you need. Don't be scared about asking questions, asking for help. People like to help, right? So if you're curious,
Yes.
and something I always tell, something I learned is be honest with yourself, right? We're in a generation where it's cool to be an entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur is not cool. It is. You
Not
have to
cool.
have the passion for it. It's not cool. So don't believe the hype. Don't believe the Instagrammers telling you it's cool. You work 24/7s. You are all the problems roll up to you, and you have to love what you do. You have to
Sorry,
have a
Kadion, my son literally asked me last night. He's like, Mom, I was working really late. He's like, is the rest of your team working right now? I'm like, no,
not a
it's just
chance.
me. I said,
Not a
because I'm
chance.
the boss. I have to work all the time.
Yep. So the reality is being an entrepreneur is not cool. You have to really know if you want to be that. and there's nothing wrong with being something else, understanding your assignment in life, and really asking yourself hard questions. And for some young people that I mentor, I ask them, who are you uninterrupted? And nobody seems to understand what that means, right? So I give them a clue. If you had a child, what would you want them to be? Because we're always going to reflect what we really want to be, right? It's hard to define ourselves, but it's easy to define what we love the most. So if I ask Naomi what would she want her son to be, she'd probably say whatever he's going to be happiest at, right?
Facts.
And that's her uninterrupted. She wants to be the happiest she can be, in an
Fantastic.
impactful way, probably. So not to run over time, it's 7 now, but no, but seriously, entrepreneurs, you need to be curious. The internet has leveled the playing. You can get mentorship, as Naomi said. There's nothing wrong in starting out and working for companies or interning at companies and getting knowledge, because there's a lot of pitfalls and there's wisdom in knowledge. And so getting that knowledge hands-on is not in school. It's being in the field and learning.
You know what, Kadion, when
Fantastic.
we were at San Diego Zoo, that's exactly what the guide said to my son. She's like, yeah, we do have people that have their degrees in zoology, but really we take on more people that have actually had some kind of experience working with animals. So, and what I'd add to what Kadion said is do what Kadion did. If you see an opportunity to walk up and shake the hand or meet or say a word to someone that inspires you or someone that you want to mentor you, do that. Like, you will be surprised at the doors that will open for you if you just take that leap of faith. So don't be afraid to step out and show up and say what you need to say to the people that matter to you.
Fantastic. That's a great note to end on. I want to just thank Katie and Naomi for spending not just this wonderful time, but really sharing some really nuggets. I thank the audience for chipping in. Christiane says, what weekend when you're an entrepreneur. So I love that comment.
Thanks.
Also want to thank our producer, James. I just have one quick announcement. On this Thursday at 5 p.m., Nudge Caribbean YouTube channel. Tune in. We're doing a launch in Barbados. And again, just thanking our host, Tech Beach Retreat and Nudge, and visit us on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn.
Scott, I'm a big fan of Nudge. So Julie, Anya, good job.
Yes, brilliant. Thank you. It's been wonderful. And as I said, I got some messages for myself today. So selfishly, this was fantastic. So thank you so much for both of you. I really appreciate it. All the best.
Thank you, guys.
Bye,
everybody. Sure.